Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 47th episode of the PokéSells official podcast. My name is Rocco Mitchell. I'm your host, and we took a week off last week because I was in Chattanooga and had zero Wi-Fi, so we had to push it back a week. But this week's podcast is going to be amazing. I have my friend Steve, also known as SoFlo RetroGames on Instagram, and also a friend of Reed who we've had on the podcast before. So make sure to go check out that episode after you watch this one. But without further ado, Steve, could you please just introduce yourself for the audience at home?
What up, guys? I'm Steve from SoFlo RetroGames, the owner. We do cards all around the country, like probably some of the other guests on here. Started with video games a long time ago, and then recently switched to cards, which have been super blessed. But yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Yeah, you've been doing some crazy deals that I wanted to actually get to later, but I want to start because like you said, you started doing video games, and I was looking at your account. So how was that? I guess even before Pokemon, what got you into I guess reselling video games? I assume is what it would kind of be like, and
Yeah,
how did that work? Because I've never obviously I know people that have done it, but I don't know really what goes behind it.
yeah. So right when I was around 13, about to turn 14 years old, I stumbled across a YouTuber named CJR. I don't even think he's a YouTuber anymore. And it was like a really clickbaity title. It was how I got my video game collection for free. And it's like a whole basement of games. I'm like, either I waste 20 minutes of my life, just watch this video, or I get some value out of it. So I watched it, and then he's like, yeah, I go to yard sales and swap meets and whatever, and I go buy a box of video games, and then I sell off whatever I need to make my money back, and I just keep whatever I want. I'm like, that makes a lot of sense. So then I went to one yard sale, bought a box of games, I think for like $10, sold what I needed to, made like $25 profit. And this is when I'm like 13, maybe 14 years old. I'm like, and I got to keep a few games for myself. So I had a little bit more money, found another box of games, and another one, and another one, and another one. And it just kept spinning to the point where I built like a huge PC for myself, but never really cared about the money. I just wanted free games. Like literally, I just liked games and just did it because I liked collecting. And then I had an individual on Instagram that I was close with reach out. And he's like, hey, I'm trying to buy right now. Like, I'll buy your whole collection for 70%. I'm like, I don't even know what number that looks like. Like, what does that even mean? So I go in price charting, put the whole collection in. I'm like, holy crap, I've amassed like a $27,000 collection for free. At this time, I was in like 11th grade. I was like 17. I'm like, well, that's a lot of money. I'm going to school. Like, I don't need this stuff anymore. But I'm like, 70% is a little tough. Like, I know I can get more because I had already built like an audience on Instagram that I would continuously sell to, and then eBay and whatever. And then, so at that point, it switched in my mind. I'm like, I'm selling my collection, but I want to make a little bit more. And then started selling everything off. And that's how I got into conventions, actually. It's because I met an individual who's like, hey, ever heard of SuperCon? And I'm like, no. And he's like, you should get a booth there and just sell your games there. Did that. And then I had a lot more money to buy more games. And I was like, all right, I'm done. Like, I don't want to buy games anymore. But then crazy opportunities just kept presenting themselves. And I just kept buying, kept selling, kept buying, kept selling. Stopped collecting, but then just kept spinning it up with shows. And it got to a really, really crazy level. You definitely have seen on my Instagram. And then, yeah, that's the whole story regarding games. And that was always like my true passion. And I recently got into Pokemon. Yeah.
No, that's super cool. I have never been. I wish I was at home. I'm at school right now. But I have a Game Boy. I forgot what it's a game. What it's not the Game Boy. I think it's a Game Boy Advance. It's like pink. It's like a Japanese exclusive or something like that, or SP something like that. And I have Emerald on it, but that's like the extent of my video gaming. I don't game a lot anymore. I used to play a lot of Minecraft back in the day, and I play Clash Royale on my phone, but that's about it. But I I've always been fast. Like for me, there's always something like putting a cartridge in or something like that. But that's like really cool. And you said like someone offered to buy you out at 70%. So did it like function essentially the same way that Pokemon kind of functions? Because I know I've talked to like sneaker people, or I've talked to like other people that resell different things, and how they price it. It's not like, oh, I'll buy it at 70%. They price it in a different way. So is it kind of like a similar, like, I guess, was it an easier transition when you started doing Pokemon?
So it was weird. So whenever I was getting offered to get bought out, it was just my collection. I was in no rush to sell. So like 70% was interesting, but just gave me like a baseline
Mhm.
of where it's like, oh, that's interesting. I'm considering. And then whenever I would buy video games, I'd pay about 65 to 70%. A standard buyout now in the game world is about 40% market is like a good buyout.
Right.
So the margin's huge, but the labor's really intensive to, sell them. Each item's like $6 to ship, as opposed to cards where you can ship a grip out for $3.
Mhm.
So there's a lot more factors in the games, but the transition into cards was pretty smooth because I did games with cards, started onboarding more and more and more cards until cards went from 10% of the business and games were 90 to cards were 90% of the business and games were 10%. And then cards eventually just fully took over. But the transition was smooth, and it's similar. It's just selling collectibles,
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
it was a smooth transition.
That's super cool. For me, my story with it is I've always loved Pokemon, and like collectibles. I'm more like my PC. I don't really have like a Pokemon PC. I like have a more like a shoe PC. I love shoes a lot, so I wear a lot of shoes. But very similar to where it was kind of like a passion. And then like my mom actually told me, she's like, yo, I've been seeing like a lot of people make money doing this, you should try it out, because you're like, you want to do a business or something. I was like, sure. So I
Yeah.
listened to her, and like we're here now, which is great. And kind of like what you alluded to before, like opportunities kept on coming to you, I feel like right now, for me at least. And I think it's like going to be continuing like this, as a like opposed to like this little reset that we're having in the market, is that people are just going to want to offload a ton, which I'm sure you've experienced, because obviously you've done multiple six-figure deals in the past like couple, and I like think past month or past couple weeks, whatever, however it's been. And I think that it's a really good time right now to be a Pokemon seller if you thug it out. If you don't thug it out and you like just like wimp out, then it's not going to be good for you, because you're going to have to sell everything at like 60% or like 70%, depending on who you're selling to. It depends, but it's definitely good for those that will thug it out. But that's really cool. I never thought that. Well, obviously I knew video games had a market, but that's like really, really cool that it was like you made like a really big, like, I guess, business out of it, which is really, really cool. um how does like because obviously you said Pokemon started to take over more. Were you kind of like into Pokemon like before video games, or like kind of was it something that like kind of just like the opportunity presented itself and you kind of just like took it?
So like every little kid, I was into Pokemon. That's what actually got me into games, or
Hmm.
got me into like retro games. Is like, oh, I want to go back and play all the older Pokemon games, and then I found out there was other games that weren't Pokemon. So that was always like what I started with was like Pokemon as a kid, but I don't really count that. As for the business, Pokemon, Pokemon kind of just brute forced its way in there. Like it was just one little buy that I didn't want, but it was part of a game buy, and then people were like, "Oh, you do cards now," and then they just flooded me with cards. So it was an interesting transition.
Yeah,
But
it was kind of more like forced upon you, and you had to like adapt to it. um
yeah,
yeah, that's really cool. I you don't hear that a lot. And that's like
yeah, I
that's
never
cool
intended
that
to be a card seller, and that was
well, I'm
back in
sure.
maybe August of last year.
Dang, yeah. So that's really cool. And that the fact, like, I guess before, like, you already had experience selling collectibles, so I'm sure, like you said, it like wasn't like super, super difficult for you to do, which I'm sure has been like really cool. But that's
Yeah, it
awesome.
helped
So
having an established brand jumping into the card world
mhm,
and a
yeah,
built out Instagram and brand recognition and all that definitely
yeah,
really helped.
yeah. That's super cool. So you said you transitioned like about August of last year. What so and you said you've been doing conventions like with like the with video games, sorry. And I assume like did you kind of figure out like, oh, there's conventions for video games, I'm going to go to Pokemon, or did people kind of like, yo, there's people here? Because I remember I don't know if we like formally met, but I saw you at Collecticon Atlanta and Collecticon Chicago with Reed, or at least in that little table hub. So how did that kind of like work out with, I guess, you like going and starting to do conventions and stuff within Pokemon, transitioning from video games, or was it like Pokemon at these video game conventions, etc.?
So Collecticon was actually like the logical leap into
Mm-hmm.
Pokemon there. I started with Comic Cons and anime conventions for the video games. There is no true video game show in the Southeast aside from Southeast Game Exchange, but that's all the way in like northern South Carolina. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
very far from Orlando, where I'm based out of. So there was no true game show even down here to do. So it was always Comic Cons, anime shows. And I found out about Collecticon, and it seemed logical to do that. And then that's kind of what exposed me to like card vendors and like that being a thing. But I never wanted to be one.
Cool. That's so it kind of just like happened, which is really cool. I so you started, do you still have your video game PC or like your video game stuff, or did you
I have
sell
like
off
maybe
all?
50 games I have for myself, mainly Pokemon games just on the shelf in my room. But I games are just not worth the labor at this point. Where I used to tow a 16-foot trailer around loaded to the brim, 9 employees, and now I get to roll up with 2 suitcases and 1 employee, and it's
That's
triple
awesome.
the money for a tenth of the
Yeah.
work.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's something that I think that Pokemon's obviously presenting right now. And it's like an opportunity for like, I really think it's like a really obviously it's gained popularity, but I think it's like an underrated, like, I don't profession, I guess is what you would call it, or business model, that you can do, especially and that's something like for me is like that I don't know, something that I kind of want to try out and like bring to the space, and like something that I'm trying to do with Pokemon is like bring it into the space of like, I don't want to say like internet money, but it's like the opportunity is there, because I feel like it's like a very narrow door where a lot of people think, it's just like a collectibles game, there's not like any real money behind it. But then like when you get into the actual like space, you're like, oh wow, there's like a lot of money made into this space. And I think that's something that has been coming to light, but something that I think would be cool to maybe do a case study or do like some type of test or something to see like how actually like a valid business idea it has been, especially like blowing up in the last couple of years, which which has been, I don't know, which has been cool. But I you said that like obviously it's you bring out 2 suitcases, it's less work. What do you like compared, like what do you like about running a Pokemon business as compared to what you're running before in video game, or like what has been like kind of like your favorite things to do in running a Pokemon business and like the opportunities it's like given to you?
So the difference between the Pokemon world and the video game world is that people actually see Pokemon as a business. Is kind of contrary to what you were saying, but like you go to Collecticon, there are businesses there. When people went to these shows and bought video games from me, they didn't really see it as like a business, like more of a pop up or like
Mm-hmm.
not really a store. And that doesn't attract the clients you want. Like there's no one dropping $1,000 on a video game or even a stack of games really. Maybe one or two a quarter that'll do that. Where cards, it's people walk up, drop 10,000 on cards, act like it's nothing. So the
Mm-hmm.
clientele is just infinitely better in the card world, uh, and you're not getting nickel and dimed as hard over $5 in the card world either. I've noticed, and cards you don't got to worry about them working. You don't got to test a card, like you don't got to clean a card really. Like a slab's a slab.
Mm-hmm.
That's about it, and yeah, it's just so much easier.
Yeah, that's cool. And like I agree with that, what you're saying. I guess like kind of what you were saying, like for example, I think it was yesterday I bought the Chinese Magikarp and Wailord off you or something like that. Yeah, I literally, it's going like, like you just posted up on your story, like, oh, it's sold into, like I've had that too, where I had that yesterday where I bought a card. I think it was the Pikachu and Zekrom that I had bought off Instagram, and the guy posted me, I reposted it, and immediately someone was like, yo, I want that card from you. And the card hasn't even come to my house. Like,
That's awesome.
it's like immediately, like, it's like, what the heck? And like, that happened a couple times too today. And I've had something for me, and something that I've been like really honing in on, because I think that every like business strategy, every like, if you're trying to start a business somewhere, you have to have something that defines you first from other people. And for me, obviously, yes, I'm like a younger guy doing it. I'm like a teen that's like, I post about my journey every day. But like, something that I've honed in on a lot is like PSA ones, and like low pop, like PSA one stuff. And that's primarily why I bought that Magikarp Wailord, because I'm doing like multiple tests right now. I'm about to send out like my first like really big PSA one sub. It's gonna be like, I think it's like 30 to 40 cards or something like that. That's like crazy. And there's some like really big like bangers in there. I haven't like talked about them yet, because I want to see if like what's happening is going to happen. But when you create a niche like that, it's kind of like what you said, like when you started transitioning from video games to cards, you had people just offloading like stuff from you, and like pretty much like, I don't want to say handing you free money, but for example, I'm in like history class today, right? And I have Instagram on my laptop, and I'm like just checking through deals that people are trying to send me. And this guy was like, yo, a guy that I've done a lot of business with, a lot of PSA 1 business with, he was like, hey, I'll sell both of these cards for you, PSA 1s, for like $100 together. So like $50 a card. And I'm like, sure, whatever. I mean, that's perfectly fine. I didn't even like look at comps, because like the cards are so low pop that comps are like iffy. And I check like card ladder, and like the cards are like, one of them's worth like 200 and the other one's like worth like 300. And I'm like, sure, that's great. It's like, when people just like give, and I don't mean to like saying that I'm trying to cook anyone. For me, how I look at it, if you have someone that is trying to offload their entire binder for 40%, let's say, and they just need the cash now, and you guys come to that agreement, that's just business. That's not really scamming people. If they need that for, I think that's something that is undersaid a lot in the hobby. But I think that, anyway, suffice to say, when you make a niche and like when you generate stuff, I think that helps a lot. And I don't even know how we got to talking about this. I yap a lot. But I don't know if you've experienced something similar like that. I know you kind of do a lot of things. And I know that obviously your business's strategy is a little different than mine, because you guys obviously have a little bit more connections with like bigger buyers, but I don't know how that kind of works for y'all.
Yeah. So my model, I did niche down to a degree, but it was more out of necessity for the brand, because all my slabs, 95% of them plus, probably closer to 97% of my slabs, just go wholesale. They'll never see Instagram sales. They'll never see a show. They just don't exist in my inventory. They are just a vehicle for revenue. But what I valued a lot, and some of these other big wholesalers don't, is branding. And you still have to have your interactions with like your regular people, because you got to think, you have all these followers on Instagram, you have people all around the country. There are people that come to the show. So we're gonna be in New Jersey this weekend. There are gonna be people from the tri-state area up there that are like, oh my god, I love your content, like it's great to meet you. But if I'm just sitting there with a buying station and I can't interact with them beyond just like, oh, what's up, like sell me your crap, like they want to support and interact with the brands they want, they see online. And then I want to be able to put on that show for them, basically. Like they got their time's worth to come see me and all that. So I do stock a lot of singles still for those purposes, and I do stock a lot of vintage sealed. Also, that's a better store of value compared to most things in the industry right now. So it's a way to park some money, and clients from all around the country that come out and see me, they're like, oh, let's rip a pack. Like, let's buy a pack from SoFlo and we'll rip it. Like, I like that guy. So that's what I value a lot. That's why you see my whole team wearing the shirts. That's why I have the biggest banner in the room. It's all like a big branding game for me, beyond just the wholesale business model as well.
Yeah. And that's like, something that is very important in any line of business that you're working. If you are the household name, if you have, usually, obviously, that's literally the definition of what advertising is that you spend money to promote your brand. And by promoting your brand through either like the biggest billboard, the best TV ad, the biggest banner, etc., the most content on Instagram or Reels or YouTube or TikTok, whatever it might be, is solely for the purpose to attract more of a following of customers primarily, and people that just like your stuff in the community. And I agree with that point, and that's something why like I work a lot on branding. Like I have like my daily reel. It's like I'm trying to become the world's youngest Pokemon millionaire or whatever. Something, it's outlandish title that people are like, oh my goodness. But it works because when I go to a show, people are like, yo, Rocco, you made $1 million yet? Oh, Rocco, have you done this yet? Like, when you create a narrative and a brand behind your meaning and like you're doing, it's going to help the business. I've been able to quickly gain a following in the Nashville area because I've posted and I've done deals and I've put myself out there. And also it gains more buyer trust. Like people trust me now to just send me stuff and then I'll pay for it once it arrives. Like it provides like a baseline, and when people know who you are, it's not going to do that. And about like wholesaling and stuff like that. So contrary to this, I have a friend, I will not say his name, because he actually is like the exact opposite. He hates being known. But he is the biggest vendor in Nashville. He easily, every show he goes to, whether it's like a tiny local show or like a really big show, he does like a lot of collecticons. He'll bring probably upwards to like, I don't know, like probably 500,000 in inventory, or like on the low end, like 200,000 in inventory. And then like pretty much like he has an infinite budget essentially. And I'm not joking because I've worked with him. And that's what I was going to say is, but he doesn't like to be known. His idea is like, he doesn't like to be known is pretty much his premise. He kind of likes to be not a ghost, but he likes to be like behind the scenes doing stuff like that. And I'm sure people who are like that. And I suffice to say, and to get to my point, is I recently had the last show that we did. I had like my first, I guess, wholesale experience where I was like buying for, because how he does it, he was in Houston. You guys were in Houston last week, right? Or 2 weeks ago? Yes. Yeah. He was in Houston doing the show there, and he pretty much not hired me, but he pretty much was like, here, Rocco. And he sent me money, and he was like, hey, I need you to buy stuff. I don't know how your wholesale situation works, and I kind of wanted to talk about this. But pretty much he had like a quota for the weekend. That quota for 2 weekends ago for us was, where was it? Where is it? Okay, cool. We had like for pretty much any vintage, it was any PSA 7 or higher. Any modern card, it was PSA 9 or higher. For CGC, it had to only be modern, but PSA or CGC 9 or higher, and then it was $10 to $30 price range. Was essentially like the parameters, I guess, or the quota. I don't know what that essentially like the exact definition of that is called, but we had like that definition, or that quota that we had to meet. And he sent us like a couple thousand, and he was like, Rocco, I need you to move this. And it was great. It was like my first, I think you've talked about having spreadsheets and stuff like that. I know Reed does a lot of spreadsheets. And it was like my first experience, like really like putting a spreadsheet down and like really like meeting through that whole process. And I had a blast. Like it was like really cool because essentially, he's selling to wholesalers at like, he sells like, it was like a rip and ship company or something like that. I really don't know all the logistics, but he was pretty much paying me 100% value of what I was picking up with his money. So if I bought a lot at 80% with his money, he gave me the other 20, and then I sent back, all the slabs and stuff like that.
That's a great
which
gig.
was, it was amazing. Like me and my boy Max, we were there the whole weekend. We bought out the entire show in that quota. And it was funny, and this is great, and I'm eating this on, but like, so I posted like all the slabs, and then I think it was like that Monday you posted that one thing where it was like you with the cigar and all the slabs, like the brick by brick, and I was like, oh my goodness, I just posted like my little like weak ass like $300, like I bought only like $300 slabs, and he's here with like mountains of slabs. He's like, doing. And I mean, like credit to you. That's awesome. But it was kind of funny because I was like, I'm in the same boat, but I'm just trying it out now. And this all circles back around to like branding. I was able to get that gig because I'm branding, and like this guy saw my content and he was like, I see your hustle, Rocco. I worked with him in Chicago partly when all day Sunday I was not at my table. I was walking all day Sunday in Chicago, and it was I was moving stuff for him. I was buying stuff for him, bringing it back to the table, and he saw that and he was like, Rocco, like I think this is like great. And we started working together, and that was like my first opportunity to like buy out stuff, and it was great. We spent like I think like $6,000 or something like that in cards, and we just bought like everything. And this is the last point, and then I'll ask you a question. But it was I have people that like get really peeved about like the infinite budget thing, like when like a buyer's like, oh, I'm buying everything infinite budget, whatever. It was hilarious to be like the guy in the room. It's kind of like they hate it because they can't do it type of thing, I think. And it was awesome to be like, I'm like 17, me and my Max are 17, and we're like, oh yeah, we'll buy everything. We have no budget. And people are like, what the like, well, are you guys in high school? Like, yeah, we just have a really good gig right now, and we're just gonna keep on doing this. But I guess like my whole set, that's a long story. I'm sorry, I yap a lot, which is why I have this podcast. But how does like your guys' like wholesale thing work, I guess, like with how you guys are doing that? Because I think that's something that is emerging a lot more and is a lot more prevalent in the space now, especially with like PSA and like a lot of these bigger like corporations like buying stuff, like buying huge amounts of stuff. How has that kind of worked for y'all? And like how does that work?
So Reed's been doing it a little longer than I have. I got into it June, July, around the last New Jersey fight. That was when I kind of started Card Party Tampa. That time, it's always been my own money because I don't believe in borrowing like that, at least for a buy sell trade business. If you're going to start a way crazier corporate real business, I mean, this is a real business, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's all my own money. No credit. Like I have credit cards for business, but not over leveraging and stuff. So it's always been my own money to spin up with this. The wholesale gig is an interesting one now that everyone's doing it. We're in a really weird period of this market, and it's all being driven by wholesale, driven down and up. It was driven up by wholesale. It's being driven down by wholesale, and it's turning into a mass buyer market. So these mass buyers that are buying 5,000 slabs a weekend, 1,000 slabs a weekend, 20,000 slabs a weekend, they're going to have the leverage now that the industry is so reliant on them that they can pull their rates down from 92 and 95 down to 90, down to 88, down to 85, down to 80 now is what we're going to start seeing very soon. So it's an interesting thing because everyone thinks they're a wholesaler now when the industry, that's not sustainable. So we're going to see a lot more vendors emerge again that were wholesalers just due to the nature of it. But it's an interesting concept. It takes a lot of money to make money in that though, because my margin is 3 to 10% most of the time on the lower range of that, unless I get a really blessed walk up where I can get in at 75, 77, 78%, as opposed to when I'm normally buying at 82 to 85% and only making 3 points, 5 points there. So if you're only doing it with limited capital, it's difficult to make significant gains. But once it spins up and you're well connected enough where, okay, one wholesaler is slow this week, what does this other guy need? What does this other guy need? What does this other guy need? And I'm typically having 4 different piles for different wholesalers I'm giving them to. But yeah, only making about 3 to 10%, but capital is the biggest thing with wholesale.
Yeah, and that's primarily, I know, like, primarily the reason why we had, like, he sent us money and stuff like that was, one, pretty much we were low. It was, like, no risk for us as our first gig. And, like, two, we didn't, obviously, I don't have $5,000 to spend at a show. So that was, like, kind of, like, our main drivers why we were, like, using that. And I do agree with what you're saying, like, in the terms of, and again, it opened my eyes. 2 like major big events have happened recently that opened my eyes in like trading cards. It was like Collecticon Chicago, and then this past weekend having to work as a middleman essentially and buying out a whole lot of stuff. And it opened my eyes to kind of like what you're saying. and why people like. Now I understand why people say, "Oh, I have to spend $100,000 this weekend or something like that," or I have to spend $100,000 in $10 to $20 slabs or whatever. Is because that's what you have to spend in order to make like a good, decent margin on what you're making. And I think that it's definitely an interesting area and an interesting time in the market where it's emerged from. I think that I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon. I think it's here to stay for a little bit, and I think that it's also a driving point of what your network is like kind of like connected to how much you make in this space, because you said this guy might be slow this week, but this guy might not be slow this week. So you can like kind of pivot to all these different types of people,
Yeah.
which is like I think really really cool. I think is really cool. How did you and Reed meet, and how has that relationship been between y'all? I know you obviously said that you guys live together and work closely together. How has that worked? Because I've recently found an amazing business partner, Max, and we've kind of been like working a lot together and kind of very similar to what you guys do. Um, and how does that work, and what's that story? Because Reed's amazing.
So
I've met Reed and he's awesome.
literally a year ago, in one day, we were at West Palm Card Show, which was the card show I was at last weekend, 2 weekends ago, 2 weekends ago. And we had ordered food in. Me and my old buddy they're my two buddies that we used to just vend together. And then we had PDQ and we had some leftovers. And I was walking out about to take it to the road, or take it to go and eat on the road, whatever. Driving back to Orlando, and I stopped on my one buddy's booth just to say like bye or whatever. Good seeing him, and Reed's standing there like in the middle of the deal. And I'm like, and I'd met him that show, but didn't really talk to him. And then he's like, "Yo, how much for your PDQ?" And I'm like, "Oh, like whatever." He's like, $5. I'm like, "Let's make some content." 0-10 coin flip, and we did that, and we stayed in contact ever since. Literally just because we coin flipped over some PDQ, and then yeah, that's literally what happened and how we're at where we're at. We moved in together July, and we've just been cooking. We've been pushing each other, and
Yep.
the gains since moving in, it's been what, 4 or 5 months, have been insane. We just push each other really hard to just get to that next level. So
That's awesome. And it's literally like the definition of like the lock-in, bro, I feel like. And I like, if, for example, like it's the same thing for me, where me and Max we're close, like, and it's the same exact thing. We met randomly. He met me through content. And I was going to be at a local show. We have a local show here called Lighthouse. And he texted me through Instagram, or he met me there at the show. He's like, "Yo, I haven't seen your stuff." Or he's like pretty much like very appreciative of the content that I make. And he's like, "Yo, man, let's like work together, all this type of stuff." I'm like, maybe not. I was like, I was kind of like, I don't really know who this guy is, etc. And then we ended up doing a weekend show together just randomly because I was like, fine, whatever. And I ended up giving him, I had just bought like my big Zion roller, and I gave him like my little like 2-row little Zion case before. And at the end of that weekend, it was kind of like my gift to him, like, "Yo, I think you're great. Keep on doing what you're doing." And it was at the end of that weekend, literally 5 minutes after I left, he got like attempted robbery at him at gunpoint at the show.
No way.
Yeah. And he was able to fend off the guys because of the case. Like he used the case to like knock the gun out of their hand and like just booked it. Yeah. And he called me about it. I heard about it. I called him like, "Yo, what this happened?" He's like, "Yo, that case that you gave me literally saved my life, blah, blah, blah." And he's like, "I hope that I'm coming back next week to keep on doing cards with you." And at that point, I was like, "Dang, this kid is like legit." And ever since then, we've been like best friends. And same thing, like we keep like sharpening each other. We're both in high school. He's a year behind me. He's a junior and I'm a senior. But like he'll call me in the middle, like FaceTime me in the middle of class. He's like, "Yeah, look at this crazy collection I'm buying at like 23%. This guy is like, he just needs some money for whatever." Like, "Yo," and then we'll like call every night. We'll keep on talking about like just like new opportunities that we find in the market and stuff like that.
That's so sick. That's a crazy story though.
Yeah, no, it's wild. It's definitely wild. But again, it's literally like the lock-in thing. And then essentially like looking forward, we'll probably go to college together, and like I said, like dorm together, and we'll probably like just very similar thing. Obviously, not living in a house together, but doing college together, and working on the business, which is like it's really cool. And like I feel like really blessed because it happened in a time where like I've lost a couple like previous friends in the hobby, not like in like they died or anything, but like just fallen off and like hasn't been as close as it has been before.
Right.
And it was really like a blessing to have him there. And kind of he was like, yo, we're in this together, we're gonna like run this up and like keep on sharpening each other. So
That's
it's
sick.
been
That's so sick.
it's been really cool. But yeah, and it was funny because the last show that we did all the buying out was the show where he got robbed. So we were like, it was, yeah. So we came back and we're like, screw it, we're just gonna buy out the whole show. And we did. And then what we needed. That's yeah. So obviously you've done like a lot. You have a lot of ways you've been selling. You vend. You've done wholesale. I don't know if you do online at all. Well, obviously like Instagram, like TCG Player, eBay. I don't know. What platforms do you see the most selling on? Obviously it could be any platform, and like what's your favorite, like, and like what brings the most money?
My favorite platform that's unconventional is the wholesale platform. It's not a real platform, like it's not accessible to everyone, but it just makes the most sense. Not that I mean, it's pretty easy. You should make a list, but it's a lot of work at the same time. Like it's very laborious. But in person is also really fun. That's where I get the most like satisfaction is the in person interactions. Like people like, oh, like I've seen you on Instagram, and I'm like, oh, that's sick. Like, thank you. Like that's a crazy feeling that started to happen recently. Is like people starting to recognize me from online. But in person is my favorite platform to sell. Wholesale's the most profitable platform for me to sell. And then outside of that, what I've seen, because I've only ever really sold on, I sold video games on eBay, and then did a little bit of Encore and Whatnot. But what I've just seen is Whatnot is where you can push the most volume the quickest.
Mm-hmm.
There's people that do 100K hours like in an hour casually. So if you need to push volume, Whatnot's the way. But that's where you can get fried too. Stuff will go for 40%, 10%, also 180%. So yeah, if I were to get on another platform, it would definitely be Whatnot. It's just a lot of work when I have other obligations.
No, exactly. And for me, it's the same. Obviously not wholesaling. And usually like Whatnot, I think is like usually like the yin to the yang of the wholesaling thing. Like a lot of people that like do it either do like a repacking website or like a repacking thing on Whatnot, or they're like doing stuff like that where they know they can push a profit. At least with like the buyers that we have here in Nashville. And what was I going to say? For me, I do a lot of TCG Player just because me in high school, it's a lot easier for me to like spend an hour after school listing like 200 cards than having those sell throughout the school day and then shipping those like when I come back home and shipping them out in the morning. And it's like, again, I would do Whatnot, but it's also a time commitment. I do, and then obviously shows are just fun. But I know that that's been very cool for me, and that's awesome for you. And you said, so you are in school, correct?
Yeah, I go to UCF in Orlando. So I'm like a fourth year here. I got a little bit longer than 4 years because they call it you can't finish for a reason, UCF. So I'll be here for like another year probably. But yeah, I'm in school still, which is pretty fun.
Yeah. How does building the business work with that? Because I know I have a friend, Matt, I've had him on the podcast. He goes to school in Georgia, and me, obviously someone that I was very opposed to going to college beforehand. And I was like, yeah, I just want to do Pokemon after college. But then I realized that you can kind of do both. Like you can do both. And I think that like, obviously you're an example of that. And Matt, my friend Matt, is a very good example of that. And how he has it structured is pretty much, he'll have his classes like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and like some online classes and stuff like that. And then he'll have his like Mondays and Fridays pretty much opened up so that he can go to shows and like stuff over the weekend and stuff like that and do that. I don't know if it's something similar for you, but how have you, and this is like more personal for me because I've come now to the realization that obviously it might not be what's cool to do, but how I see it is like, I go to college, get like a business thing, and like actively apply that to the business. And then if it doesn't work, then I can just obviously leave college and then do something else. But how is that kind of function for you, and how do you kind of like balance that?
I mean, so that's kind of two different parts there. The first part, I've genuinely learned nothing from a business degree in college, just here to be here. So if you're going for relevant applications to college, I've learned more in YouTube than college for business, at least. And just through nothing beats the natural interactions that you have at a show, dealing with real business people in the space.
Mhm.
Like I've learned more about real estate and insurance and all these random topics just from networking with people that
Mhm.
are other vendors or our customers and whatnot. Like that's more real world experience than anything you'll get in school. But going to like the balance side, it's somewhat easy to balance. It's pretty difficult at the same time. So my schedule, I purposely don't have Mondays and Fridays with class just for travel purposes to miss as little as possible. But at this point, school's on the back burner compared to the
Mhm.
business, where if the business requires something and school requires something, I have to do the business. Like I just have
Mhm.
to. There's employees. There's pay that needs to get paid out. Like it needs to function. So
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, take that as you will, because there's like different. It is with this business, it's as little or as much as you want it to. So the more work you put into it, obviously it can scale higher. But if you want to just be like a weekend vendor, I know plenty of vendors that do great and they just vend on the weekend and they have a real job during the week or whatnot.
Mhm.
And there's so many ways to do it. So you don't have to scale up to a crazy level and quit college, or you don't have to do college and quit Pokemon. You can still balance it pretty easy, just depending on how big you want either one to
Mhm.
be.
Yeah, I think that that's true, and that's something that I've found is like really cool within Pokemon is that you can. It's kind of up to you, like how much you want to do it and how much you want to scale and stuff like that. And it's something that I really recently realized too, because like this last month in October, like I'm trying to end out the year really strong, obviously, as everyone is. And like this month has been like really crazy, and it's just unlike every month it just keeps on getting crazier and crazier and crazier, and I think it's great. Um, and it's kind of been more for me. It's obviously it's less for the experience, but also like just applying stuff. But I definitely understand about like the whole like real world experience is obviously better than what you're going to learn in a classroom, and it's definitely interesting. And again, to what you said, like kind of how you've met like people with like real estate and stuff like that and other things. I've met a lot of all my mentors I've met through Pokemon. Like it's crazy how Pokemon is such this like vast like equalizer, I guess is what you kind of call it.
Honestly,
Between like all these like different like businesses. Like for example, I've met a friend of mine who like does like really well in like the real estate world, but he does Pokemon also on the weekends and stuff like that. And because of him, like I'm like, and he's obviously again he's seen my work through Pokemon, and it's like a good, it's like you said, like the scalability. It's a good way to like see how someone's work ethic is, because if you're crunching out hours and hours and hours in Pokemon, and you're obviously the results are there, you're going to that's going to transcribe into like different opportunities and stuff like that, and different like people are going to see that. And because of that, he's offered me like obviously like help with his real estate company and stuff like that, which is great because that's another skill that I thought I would never know. And it's like really cool. And all of that's through Pokemon. But Pokemon is like it's just different. It's like a different form of networking. And it's like again like a great equalizer for I think a lot of people.
I like that
I
term, the
know.
great equalizer. It's so
Yeah.
true. I know 16-year-olds that are selling six-figure cards. It's
Mhm.
literally crazy.
Yeah. It's wild. It's a crazy world that we're in. And it's like how much there's no like boundaries, like you said. Like there's people that are making like stupid amounts of money, like doing selling cards, and it's like it's cool. Like it's awesome that it's like you don't have to be you don't have to be like a crypto bro or like a stock bro or like a finance bro or something like that to do that. You could be a Pokemon bro, um, and you can like just make bank doing cards. It's really really cool. But yeah. What was like your something like the ask in every podcast is like what was like your defining essentially like your defining moment? I like to call it like what was your first Charizard? Essentially what was your first like defining moment in your journey of vending? Obviously you're still vending, but what has been your defining moment up to this point of that really like anchored you and you're like, dang, I'm really gonna start doing Pokemon, like this is like something that's gonna work and I'm like gonna push myself to do it.
In only the Pokemon space or the vending space?
Well,
Because I obviously
vending. It could be vending. Any vending.
in the vending space. That's a great question. I mean, that's a really good question. I'd probably say like right maybe 2023, 2024, when I started doing more than one show a year. I would just do SuperCon every year. Right when I started having repeat clients from shows, I'm like, this is going somewhere. Like that's when I kind of knew. But in the Pokemon world, the I don't know if there was like a defining moment, like or like a big deal that really happened that put me to this level, or like to where I'm like, this is a turning point. I feel like it was just throwing a ton of hours into it and just keep working. I didn't really fall into anything, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Yeah, no, that's cool. It's just like you fell in love with more like the process of building it and like kind of like how that's taking you, and that's awesome. That's great. It's mostly like I think what did I see? I saw something where it's like people like they like the space of like just the journey and like how that brings satisfaction and stuff like that, which I think is really cool. I'll spearhead that, or I'll like kind of back end that question with what has been the craziest deal that you've done. I know you've done some really crazy stuff recently, but what has been the craziest deal that you've done?
So my deal with Nova recently, that was on my
Mhm.
Instagram. I paid a little bit over. I think it was like $230,000 deal approximately. It was a little bit over 1,000 slabs. That was nuts. We had the deal locked in. Vince had texted me, or me and Vince talked in Chicago. He's like, "What are your rates?" I told him my rates. He goes, "Okay, this percent works for me. Like, I'm gonna send you a list. Send me the list." I'm like, "Holy crap, this is a lot more than I thought." But like, fuck it. Like, let's see where we get. We get somewhere. This is all within like 48 hours. Like Chicago happened. The list is in my text by like Tuesday. Wednesday, we're on the phone like locking a deal. We locked the deal. He's like, "How quick can you pull cash?" Because he wanted it in cash, for his purposes. I don't know. But he's like, "I prefer cash." I'm like, "Well, we're gonna have to wait on the bank then." Just happened to work out where my chase that normally limits me like really really low, they let me pull out a significant amount of cash that made the deal happen. I literally was on a flight the next day after we locked the deal in because I had all the cash on me. And that was like honestly the craziest deal ever. We flew up there. It's like 1,000 slabs, and same day flying back with all the loot. It was, and then Houston Collecticon was 36 hours later. So I had me and then two people helping me. We processed through all 1,000 slabs, got them to our various wholesalers, and then had some things for retail and had recouped everything within 96 hours basically of buying the lot, which was insane.
That's
But
crazy.
that was a really crazy deal.
That's crazy. That's amazing. That how does so you're 20. What did you? How old are you? 22. 22. How does that feel as a 22-year-old to spend over a house in Pokemon cards, or about a house in Pokemon cards?
So I have like I'm like so jaded with all this because I see what Reed's doing, and we're obviously pushing each other. But like, I still think I'm slacking. Like I'm slacking. I got to catch up. Like I got to catch up. And I see what other people are doing. Like stepping back sometimes when really cool moments happen, and I'm like, it's like a holy shit moment. It's like this is real life, you know? Like it's crazy sometimes. It's like especially after a big deal like that, you step back, you realize you're like, wow. Like I look back to literally January, and I had $34,000 from doing video games for 4 years. I made $6,000 in 2024, and then just looking back, that was 10 months ago, and now I'm doing deals to that degree. It's just insane, like absolutely insane. So
yeah. It's like it's hard to, and I feel what you like about like falling back and stuff like that. And like obviously it's everyone's different journey. And it's like for me, I started with about a year ago, or it'll be a year in a couple of days. Um, I started with like nothing. I pretty much started with like $200 that I like liquidated and like just kept on flipping and flipping from there. Where now, I don't even, and it's weirder for me too. Like obviously, like I feel the same way where it's like jaded. Like I'll spend like, $200 on a slab and like it's whatever. And like to think that like that's what I used to start with. Like that's what I started with. And like that's like how far you've come in like obviously a short amount of time. And it's great. And I think that obviously everyone has their own journey and everyone's going to be different in the way that they do things. But it's definitely it's awesome. And that you were able to like go through and process all that like really fast.
Literally,
Is
we
like
processed the whole
it's
thing
really
in
cool.
16 hours. The whole lot
Yeah,
was out in the mail.
yeah, yeah.
Sick.
That's crazy. And that's also another thing I love about wholesale, and something I realize is like you pick it up and it's already sold. Like it's essentially already sold. Like all you have to do is buy it.
Buying
Um,
things with a buyer in
and
mind always at that level.
yeah,
It's too much risk to hold otherwise.
yeah, exactly. Which has been really really cool. I So that deal, obviously, the one that you did with Nova was awesome. And something that I've realized and come to realize in the space, especially after Chicago, was like middlemaning and like how amazing it is to middleman for people. Like, so for example, I've started to do a lot of middlemaning. I've, local shows here, I'll middleman a lot of, like, I'll middleman like a couple like $1,000 deals. I'll do this. And it's like pretty much bringing one card to one person doing that. And some place where I want to be is like, and I think I saw it because I saw your reel, and I was like, how cool would it be to like be the person, like, let's say, for example, you couldn't make it, or like you had another like $100,000 buy somewhere, like, but you had someone that go there and do that for you. Have you had stuff like that happen? Or like, do you know people like at that caliber of like, I guess, middlemaning that would do that? Or like, how do you think like that would function in like Pokemon?
That's a lot of money to just give someone to, oh, here, let's go drop off 200K cash to someone. Like, I'll go do that. The business is not too big where I'm above doing that. Like, my time is not worth, $200,000 a day or whatever. So, basically any transaction that's not at a show, like I'll go send my guys around the show, scout it out, hammer some buys in, but I'm typically in the room when the buying's happening. I've tried outsourcing it before and it didn't end the best.
Mhm.
I'll tell you about that off camera. But yeah, I just handle the buys now, really.
Yeah, no, I think that's cool, and that's great. I think that that's obviously, like you said, like it's a lot of money to risk, and that's something that is, I think is obviously, yeah, it's true, and that's like cool for people. But congrats again on that deal. That deal was like, when I saw that, I was like, oh my goodness. But then like you see Reed post the next morning, he's like, this is what like $500,000 egg looks like on a booster box, and it's like damn. Um,
There's
I
always
don't
a
know
bigger
if you.
fish.
There is
There's
always
always a bigger
that's true.
fish.
And that's even like there's always that's something that the guy that I work for has told me too, because like he'll point out, because he's been in the space a little bit, he'll point out people and he's like, yeah, that guy does this, that guy. I'm like, how do you? And he's just been in it a long time. And it's like really that's something I've come to realize. There's always like going to be a bigger fish. There's always going to be someone that does it. And again, it comes to like branding. It comes to like how you carry yourself and how like what's different about you, like in this space, like what's your niche or what's your market or all that type of
Branding's
stuff.
the biggest thing because we're all literally selling the same thing. How many in New Jersey collecting? How many Crown Zenith dogs are going to be sitting on the floor? NTVs. How many are going to be on the floor? 500 of them. Why is the customer going to choose yours? Price aside, say they're all priced the same. There's got to be a reason they're choosing to buy yours as opposed to anyone else. Whether it's customer service, branding, brand reputation, brand recognition
Mm-hmm.
is the word. Like, there's got to be something like to differentiate yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's true. And it's like branding is everything, I think, and it's like that's something I think that we saw even that was outside of Pokemon, something that has emerged in like the business space in general, like in the online business space too, is like obviously 2025 was like a really big year for a lot of personal brands. It was like this is outside of Pokemon, but like this is just like data analytics, but like it was a really big year for people to carry their brand and do whatever it might have been that they were doing with it. But I think is like, especially as we grow in an age now where it's like a lot of people don't know what's either like real, what's fake, or like what's, what's going to be, what's different from this person to this person. Like you said with the Entei, like it's really, if you can connect with that person on like a person to person level, and the easiest way to do that, I think, is through a brand and through a social media medium, which is like interesting. I think it's really cool and different. But what is your favorite Pokemon?
My favorite Pokemon is Tepeg. I
Tepeg?
first started Pokemon Black and White.
It's tough.
Little fire pig.
That's tough. I love Wooper, and I love Slowpoke. And I've started to like pick up, I guess, my hype favorite Pokemon. I like Rayquaza a lot.
Rayquaza is lit. I love Rayquaza.
I love Rayquaza, however you say it. And I really like, I've come to like Mewtwo a lot, I think. There's a lot of like cool Mewtwo cards, and I like Mew and Mewtwo as like my first gen. And my favorite generation is second generation. So I like Totodile. I love Totodile. He's like my go-to starter.
Heart Gold, Soul Silver, arguably the best Pokemon games ever made. So
yes,
I agree with you there.
Yes. But that's awesome. And then you obviously said you have like a small video game PC. Do you have like a Pokemon PC that you have at all?
It's behind the camera here. I'm missing one card. It's a Crown Zenith PSA 10 set of all like the alternate art Galarian Gallery ones. I'm missing just the Regigigas that I've literally owned 4 times and accidentally wholesaled out. It's the last one for the set, and then that's all I really collect cards wise. And then obviously like my childhood cards, I graded a bunch of them, and they just sit on the shelf too. I'll never sell those.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think now that I think you've posted about that shelf that you have, or like it's not a shelf, but it's like the like slab like
the wall hanging thing.
Yeah, that's cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of PC, but like I said, I like shoes a lot, so I do buy shoes every now and then to wear. And like my PC is a bunch of like signed stuff. So I'll have I have a hat. So the Magikarp Pro Shop hat, I have one of those that has a lot of people's signatures on it. I'll have to get your signature on it next time I see you at a show. But pretty much like I just have it because it's like all the aura of all the vendors that have signed it like are just looking to wear that
That's so fire.
But it's fire. But yeah, that's really cool. So obviously you did wholesale. So when you're going to a show, like how you differentiate like between, because obviously you have your wholesale stuff. Obviously, I assume you have like your inventory is like separated. Like what are you looking for? You said you bring a lot of singles still. What are you looking for? Like when you're going to a show, what is like the things that you like to take with you that have like sold, like really have a good selling reputation? And then what do you like to bring to catch, I guess, eyes? Because something that Reed told me and like obviously like changed like my view on it is like when you have like a certain card, people are going to come to you with that card. So let's say you have 20 boxes of sealed inventory. People are going to come to you with sealed because they see sealed. If they see a whole bunch of binder cards, they're going to come to you with binder cards. If people see like, a bunch of slabs, they're going to come to you with slabs. So kind of like, how do you like, what's your inventory when you come to a show?
You got to go vintage sealed always. That's what we were saying a little earlier. The reason I do it attracts more vintage sealed to the booth, which I enjoy. It's a good way to park the money into something that's pretty resistant to market changes. And then also it's interactive. Like people can rip it if they want to support, or they're just bored or feel like degenning a little bit. They can rip it too. Most slabs at this point, I'm taking a loss on that are in the case. Like I literally just do it as a loss leader. It's a marketing expense to me to have $400 slabs in the case. Most of them backwards on, but that doesn't matter to me because people like to see a full case. So I'll bring one case of slabs. And then singles do pretty good. We're normally able to enter singles very good. We price them once, they sit. If someone shows me the market change, take it at market, rounded down to the dollar. Like I don't care with those. They're paid for like 10 times over. So for me, it's just about brand presence at the shows as opposed to selling. Selling's nice, but it's about buying for me at shows. So I post up to sell just to really buy, uh, both behind the table and vendor to vendor. So it's kind of unique. Like I'm a vendor, but I'm not, but I am.
Yeah, no, it's cool. And it's more like you said, brand presence. I think that's something that we're going to just keep on honing and toning in on this podcast, that
That's the theme of
brand
this
presence
episode.
is important. Yeah. Yes.
Very.
Yes. And that's actually my thumbnail. I jotted down the thumbnail earlier today, like the theme. It's going to be, I use the biggest buyer in the South. I think that's what I'm going to use. Like he is the biggest buyer in the South. Which is again like another branding thing. Like for me,
I
my thing is
gaslighted myself into that. That's been in my bio since I switched to cards in April, and
yeah, and it's
I manifested that. And
exactly.
I mean, I'm not the biggest, but when people think of big buyers, I think they think of me.
Yeah, no, and I think that if you keep on saying that it will be. And again, like manifestation, I think is like really important. Like for me, it's like Nashville's finest. Obviously, I'm not the biggest person in Nashville. I'm like not even really that big. I'm getting there, and I plan on getting there, and I know that I will get there because of the hard work that I put in. But you just say it into existence until it happens, and then once it happens, you're like, oh wow, that's great. I'm like very grateful that I'm finally here, and like you just, it's crazy how far you've made it. And like for me, Pokemon over everything, Pokemon's offered me like a bunch, like freedom. Like I know I've been saying this for a lot of podcast episodes, guys, but I'm being for real this time. I'm looking at a car. I should be looking at a car like tomorrow or something like that, which is going to be great. And I'll be able to buy a car like with Pokemon money, which is like really cool. And obviously it won't be like a super big, it won't be super nice because obviously I want more money for my inventory. And I think that's also something that is very interesting. Especially with like Reed, and something that I talk to, because I have his number and we talk sometimes. I know he's very busy. But he kind of like says like lay low, not lay low, but pretty much like don't bring a lot of attention to yourself. Obviously, yes, you can, but like he told me like he still drives like a 2006 Honda Pilot, and that's just because like it's just a vehicle that moves you from point A to point B, and it makes sense. If you, for example, I assume you go to the shows with probably like what, like $100,000 inventory or more.
Some in that world, yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I don't really calculate it.
But let's say you're going to a show with $100,000 inventory, and like let's say you're in a, I don't know, what's like a, I don't want to say anything crazy, but let's just say like you're in like a Cadillac SUV or something like that. Like people are going to be like, oh, this guy has money. And then they break into your car and they're like, oh, wow, this guy actually had money. He had $100,000 worth of stuff, compared to someone that's driving in like like a Honda or like something low maintenance, like low under the radar. And like, they're not going to suspect that. And it's like, I think it all plays into like a big psychology thing, which is like big. I don't know if you have anything on that, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always like, if you're talking from like a robbery perspective, I'm always very paranoid about that, and I take the precautions to limit as many risks as possible. I literally will bring extra employees and pay them extra as a form of security. Like, sure, I get the work out of it, but like, it's security at the end of the day. Like, the more people I have with me, the less likely I am to get robbed, and that goes for both in the booth and out the booth. Like, I only had one guy working with me in Chicago, and we had a $1,200 card stolen. Nothing you can do about that. But say I had another guy I was paying, $400 plus flights and food, say $600, all in, and I prevented that $1,200 card from being stolen. That just paid for itself twice, So something to consider as well.
Yeah, I think that's something that's great. When you're hiring someone for a show, how does that look like?
So all of my employees, in big air quotes, are all like, most of them are guys in my frat that I'm very close with. So super blessed with that, because there's already trust like there that exists, and they've seen also the business grow to the scale it is. So they have like an understanding of where things started.
They're day ones.
So yeah, they're literally day ones, and my biggest thing. So one of my old mentors, I was on the phone with him this morning actually. I used to like really cheap out on labor because I couldn't afford it. Like the business when I was selling video games, could not afford it. I would pay my guys $100 a day, and they'd be busting their ass to work, and I literally couldn't pay them more because I didn't have money at all.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, look, take care of your people, pay them more. They're gonna work harder. They're gonna want to be there. They're gonna take care of you. Trust me. So that show I paid them more, and then the next show, I mean, they were busting ass. Like it was crazy. And ever since, like I make sure to pay my guys really really well, because they take care of me a lot.
Yeah, no, I think that's cool. And that's like, I think 100% true. Like the more you pay people, the more they're going to want to work harder, the more they're going to want to do stuff. And I think that that's like 1,000% true. And that's awesome that you've been able to do that. And that's cool. And that's something for me that's also been like really awesome for like finding like a business partner that necessarily like we kind of like split. We're not like official business partners. We have different inventories and like different amounts of money and stuff like that we spend. But to have that like trust and like to be like, yo, I know you're not gonna like double cross me or whatever, or we'll go out to eat afterwards and whatever, is like really cool. And I think that that's something that is awesome. And that if you can help other people, something I've learned, if you can help other people make money, you're going to make money and you're going to make like connections and you're going to do stuff like that, which is good for everyone all around. So yeah, I don't know if I have, that's kind of like the end of like all my questions. I don't know if there's anything you want to hit back on or talk about. I don't really, is there anything I think about? Let's see here. I might have had some questions written somewhere else. But is there anything that like something that you want to hit on or something that you would like interest that you have, or not an interest, but like a hot take or something that you have?
A hot take. Ooh. Not everyone's a vendor. Not everyone's a content creator. Not everyone's a wholesaler. You gotta find your groove. Everyone tries to be everything when they're not meant to be. Like I'm not really meant to be a content creator, and you gotta find your groove. So I don't know if it's a hot take or just the truth, but you don't have to force yourself to be a vendor if that's not what you're supposed to be. You can be a streamer, or you can be just a consumer. Like not everyone has to be a vendor. Not everyone has to be a content creator. Mm-hmm. So that's like the biggest thing that's been like on my mind lately regarding the industry. Like right now, everyone thinks they're a wholesaler, where like 6 months ago, everyone thought they were a vendor. So it just comes in waves.
That's lots. 6 months ago, everyone thought they were a vendor. I know that 100%. Because
quickly they get weeded out too when they realize. I mean, it's great to try things. Don't get me wrong. Like pursue everything you're interested in, but don't force it if it's not working.
Mm-hmm. No, exactly. And I think that that's also something that I'm happy about for this like little market reset, is that it's not going to kick people out, but those people that weren't really in it for the love of either the game or the business or the hobby or whatever, they're going to leave. And I think that's
going to get a bunch of people weeded out.
Yeah, I think it's going to create a more healthy vendor environment and a more healthy buying space, and it's going to kind of like reset everything, which I think is going to be great for everyone, and help people. It's going to help us. It's going to help people that are actually in it that want to make a business. It's going to do all that type of stuff, which I think is going to be great. Or I guess something else. What are your goals for like? Obviously, how do you want to end out this year? Because obviously the year's closing up. And what are your goals for next year?
I mean, I've way exceeded any expectations I had for myself. I started this year as a video game vendor. I wasn't even selling cards. So my goal, I didn't even think I was going to hit it. It was to hit 6 figures liquid. And now, obviously, I can't say where I'm at, but there's transactions that are bigger than that I've bought. So you can probably, I've exceeded that goal, and am extremely blessed for that. Like I never thought I'd be at this level. This was my goal, like for 2 years from now, and I'm already at it. So my goal for next year, shooting for the moon, obviously. But who knows? Who knows?
Do a $10,000 slab buy. I don't know if you've done that already.
A what?
Do a $10,000 slab buy.
I think I bought a little bit more in slabs than 10,000.
Well, like in one single buy.
Oh, one single slab. I've only had one slab over 10K. I thought you were talking about one big buy.
Oh yeah, like one big buy of 10,000 slabs.
Oh, 10,000 slabs. I thought you were talking about $10,000. 10,000 slabs would be nuts. That's a lot of slabs. Even if you assume an average value of $100, that's $1 million of slabs. That's a lot of slabs. That'd be cool. That'd be really cool. My record right now is 1,100 slabs in one buy or 1 weekend of buying. 10,000 would be nuts. That's a lot.
That's like, imagine filling, like you could fill up the room probably. No, I don't know if you could fill up the room with that, but you would.
One of these shelves, because I've seen it in person, will fit like 20,000 slabs.
Oh dang! How you went? Where was that Nova that you went to? Was that How was explain like how did that feel? Because
their warehouse.
Are they like the top? They're like top, right? Like top.
They're top 10, probably top 2. Honestly, it's just them and Kraken's obviously like the biggest fish. Kraken's massive. It's 24/7 on multiple streams too. So they're streaming like 300 hours a week, which is absurd. There's only 168 hours in the week. So, but Nova's probably top 2, definitely top 10. Seeing their facilities were crazy. I can't say too much, but like it really showed me what's possible in this space. And they're also very young, Philip and Vince. And it was really motivating to see just what's possible. I'm getting to see them this weekend, I think. So it'd be cool to catch up with them.
Nice. Where are they based out of New York?
Nova is Northern Virginia.
Oh, okay.
So they're right there, close to you, sort of.
Yeah, that's awesome. Maybe link up an interview.
That'd be pretty cool.
Because that's like the top echelon. That's like, and that's another thing. Like when I started this podcast, one reason I really started this podcast was just like to network with people. I think it's a cool medium. Like for example, we didn't really know each other until this moment. Now we've had a conversation, and when I see you at a show with Reed, we can dap up, say what's up. I know who you are.
Yeah.
And like I hope you know who I am, or a little bit more of who I am. And I think that again, like where I came from in Pokemon was more of the competitive side. So I wanted to get like players and stuff like that. But then I kind of switched completely to like Pokemon business aspect, because I don't think, obviously there's podcasts that are like this, but there's like, I think this podcast like offers like a neat, like an introspective like way of like seeing how Pokemon business actually works, which is ultimately like what I'm trying to do, which I think is like really cool. But that's awesome, and like congrats on making that connection. How old, like, or I don't want to say how old are they, but you said they're relative, like the business is young, or like the people running it are relatively young?
The people running that are not much older than I am, which is very cool.
That's awesome.
So it showed me what's possible, like still young. Yeah. Like, everything's so possible. Like it doesn't have to be like a big corporate. You don't got to be 40 years old. Like you can do it now. Like that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, I think that's.
I'm literally doing what I'm doing at 22. Reed's 22. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, it's like, and it's all really because like one, like we want to take the risk, and two, it's like seeing, it's how much work you put in. And like for me, like thinking about it, like 22 is like 5 years for me. Like I don't know even where I'm going to be in 5 years. Like I think that
you're way ahead of me. I was selling video games. My first show I did when I was 18, so you're already way ahead.
I appreciate it.
I only did one show that year. I did one show the year after, and then 2 shows the year after that. I didn't even ramp up until 2024.
Yeah,
so you're way ahead.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I am. Another thing about goals is I want to do like one Collecticon by the end of the year. And now
you haven't done a Collecticon yet?
No, I did. I've done 3. That's what I was saying. Like I
Oh,
wanted to do 1 Collecticon this year, and I've done 3. I will be hopefully doing 3. I've done Atlanta, Chicago, and I'm doing LA. I should be doing LA at the end of the year, which is really cool because I know that's where a lot of like the other people. The one like my goat that I haven't met is Clover Cards, and I know I think they're based in LA. I believe I know they have a Vegas store.
they're
I think
West
they're
Coast
also
guys.
based
They
in
might be LA.
Yeah,
I haven't met them yet too. I love their
yeah.
content.
I want to meet them because for me, again, that's like upper echelons, like peak like people that I want to meet in the space. But that's awesome. I so 2026, you're just gonna keep on ramping it up, going to the moon, going to
Yeah, that's the goal. That's the
yeah.
dream. I think we're gonna see a really nice pullback. You're gonna see a lot of people weed it out, like we were saying. I think hobbyists are gonna take over. Like there's if you've noticed, I don't know if you've noticed this at the local level, but definitely at like the Collecticon level, slabs aren't selling to customers; they're selling to like businesses. Like I feel like the slab market isn't being boosted anymore by customers, which it needs to reset and be. You know, that's where it was February of this year. Through summer, and then it really started shifting mainly to B2B, which isn't unhealthy, but it's not healthy at the same time. So we're gonna see this pullback. It's gonna keep pulling, which is good, and then it's gonna be accessible again, which is good because this should be built by people that are in the hobby, not
built by collectors.
Yeah, ran by collectors, not ran by people trying to make money.
Yeah. I did notice that, and that's a reason why I switched to PSA 1s, because PSA 1 again is that niche and it's collectors that collect them. I know people that I can sell off most of my 1s to. And it also gives me the opportunity to own like grails that I thought I wouldn't own at this point. Obviously it's not like the full 10, but I get to own it still regardless. Like I was able to own a poncho I was able to buy and sell a poncho for like $400 because
cool.
it was a 1. And I was able to own the original Moon Kitty. I literally owned it. I got it in the mail, brought it to a show, and it sold the same day.
That's fire.
And it's like it's a niche that I've known, or I'm starting to know. And it's also, like I said, it's a little easier. I don't want to say like manipulate prices, but it's easier to like, I have a standard baseline that I'm gonna like. I have like PSA 1 slabs at, and it's cool. And there's also opportunities in there that haven't been done. Like, for example, I'm getting some cards in this weekend that I'm trying to complete some sets that there is no record history of any of them in like PSA 1 value.
You get to name your own price then. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. Which I think is cool. And it's like a little niche. But anyway, I definitely agree with I think the reset's going to happen and it's going to go more into a consumer market, which is great for a lot of people. Especially hopefully we can go back to Targets and stuff and actually buy some cards and stuff like that. But yeah,
I think I don't think we're going to be able to find sealed products still. More of the slab. Yeah, I think there's too much demand that exists still. Like until like these scalpers, because I won't even you won't see a single modern product in my booth. Like I kind of refuse to even touch it unless it was like a no-brainer deal that like I had to take. I refuse to touch it now because I don't even want to get a rep where it's like, oh, you're selling scalped product. Like, no. So once these scalpers can't turn a profit anymore, that's when you're going to see stock on the shelves. But they're still very profitable. Like ETBs will drop; they're still $90. You know, a Phantasmal ETB is probably 85 to 90 still. So it's still worth it for them to scalp.
Yeah, I think that's true, and like I think that I understand that, and that's interesting. And that modern is definitely, I see that. And again, like why vintage is again, like you said, like a good like saver of your money. It's like gold. It's like your gold bar, and stuff like that, which is cool. And also, I think that this is like another thing that Pokemon and I think that alternative finance options are going to like grow a lot, because I think what was it, like Pokemon beat the S&P by 500 by like 400 points or something like that, or like there was some crazy stuff. So I think that for 2026 it's going to be more of a collector's market. And then also I think, like you said, like how slabs have turned into more like the asset class of it, where you're going to have it grown. But
yeah, it's weird though, considering Pokemon as an investment still, because it's so illiquid. on a macro term, because like with a stock you can press sell and it's gone. You can't really just press sell with a Pokemon card. And there's like platform fees, pretty significant platform fees. If you want to make your full money on eBay, you're eating 13%. There's really no other asset, that you're not getting cashed out at full on instantly.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't really consider it an asset as much.
Yeah, that's I can see that. Yeah, and I think that it's not an instant sell unless like someone that like you can sell it to offload, which is again like networking. You have to know people, and then maybe that person doesn't want to buy it at that time. So
yeah, you're not going to get it for 100% of the value either. 98% of the time, I'm selling something for a discount. Most of the stuff in my booth is already discounted under market because I pass along the deal to the buyer.
Yeah, well, I think that's cool, and I agree with that. I don't want to hold you too long because obviously we went a little over. I try not to go. I know you're a very busy man. You said your goals. What is my last question for you before like where people can find you is what would be your piece of advice for someone that wants to get into this selling wise?
To get into it, it's a weird time to break into it. However, do it with the right intentions in mind. Have clear intentions. You want to do what I was doing with video games at the beginning, where I was buying them, flipping just to collect for free. Do that. You want to buy it to run a profitable business? Do that. You want to do it to stock your stream? Do that. Figure out your goals. Have an intention behind just vending. Also, have branding and stuff. Like having branding goes a long way, even if it's $150 Office Depot, pop-up banner. That's immensely important. Social media presence. That's the best way to break in. Also, I full sent it into like the biggest Comic-Con in the Southeast, like second biggest Comic-Con in the Southeast. Full send it into a big show. Fuck it. Like literally just full send it. You'll learn everything, even if you take a slight loss because of table costs or whatever, like just full send it. Even if you have like 2K of inventory and it costs you $600 to be there, full send it. Being in that space, seeing what's possible will allow you to really scale to where you want to be. If your goal is to make a massive business out of it, you can also grind locals and scale up from there as well. I know plenty of people that do that. But yeah, I mean, that's my best advice. Don't nickel and dime people. Like, don't squeeze. Buy low, sell fast. Hyper liquidity. Always get liquid. Get liquid. Always. That's why I'm only taking 3 to 10% gains on things. I don't care to sit on things at all and deal with market fluctuation or liquidity issues. That's my best advice for that.
I appreciate it, and I agree with that. And it kind of reminds me, this is like not related to Pokemon at all, but I saw this thing. It's like Rick Ross's like business strategy, the rapper. And it was kind of like the leaving no money on the table concept, where essentially he was like, if you own a cleaners and you charge in $3 for someone to clean their pants, and someone comes in with only $2, don't shoo them away, because one, that's more money for your competition, and two, you're losing on something else. Just have them take the $2 and then have them maybe pay you back sometime, or at least you're getting a connection that you get another recurring customer.
Follower. Normally when I'm negotiating, this is a fun little thing I do. Say it's like a $12 single and they want it for $10. I'm obviously going to say yes, even though percentage wise that's like 85%, which is kind of buns. I go, all right, $10, but you have to follow me on IG. So it's like a free addition to the negotiation that you can get in at the end, where it's of zero cost to the customer, but you have like, it's a profitable move for you to take that $2 off, but you gain a follower. I'd pay $2 for a follower that's bought from me before. That's no brainer.
Yeah, I like that. I'm gonna start using that.
Use that. It works. Really I've had repeat clients from that have spent lots of more money because I gave them that little discount plus a follow.
Yeah, I like that. I'm gonna use that. Let me put that in my notes really quick. Have follow. That's awesome. I thank you for your time. I think that this has been really fun. I know I yapped a lot. I'm sorry. I hope that you had everything that you needed to say. if you ever want to come back on, feel free to. Where can people find you as we've been talking about branding?
So you can find me basically at any big show. I try to be everywhere. Instagram is the best way to find me. SoFlo RetroGames, South Florida. Even though I'm in Orlando now. Instagram, TikTok, I don't go on there as much. Those are the two main platforms that we post on. Instagram's the best. But yeah, come find us at shows. That's the best spot to find us. That's the most fun too.
Cool. Well, thank you, Steve, for coming on.
Yeah.
Make sure to check them out,
Thanks for
guys.
having me on. This was a lot of fun.
Of course. Yeah. And thank you, everyone, for watching the podcast. This has been episode 47 of the PokéSells official podcast. Make sure to like, comment, follow, subscribe, do all that stuff for to help both of us out. And yeah, we'll see you guys next week. Peace.
Peace.